Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire, and I am here with my buddy in arms and 1K competitor, top four, possibly,
Top four,
probably
baby.
gonna win. Justin Desai, what's going on?
Not too much. Excited to recap really a great Saturday for the KTOD boys as we declared war on the
The
1K.
1K baby. And for those of us who haven't been following our careers since 1997, this is how we got started writing tournament reports, like way back in
Yeah,
the
that picture.
day on
This
Deck
picture is
Tech.
not from Saturday.
This is
This
from July
picture is
5th.
from July 5th in one year. I want to say like 2003, maybe, or Origins.
Maybe we're at some
Um,
Decipher event, but
we're
I'm
at
holding a raw
some
deal
Decipher
card.
event, raw deal. I feel like this is the first Origins, so Origins 2002.
Yeah, oh
Um,
02. So
Yeah, it's definitely
yeah,
that one
we
because
we
you
were
there's a picture
21.
of 21. There's a picture of you playing Scrabble in lobby like with that outfit
Oh,
and like
okay.
2 in the morning with Kim Caton. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
should find that polo. That was a hot polo. I should bring that back. And it matches
And
our color
some
pair
things from this
perfectly.
picture we should not bring back, which is long sideburns.
I
I got the little tag here. Maybe I was ahead of my time, but it was the
yeah,
pulling it out.
I still
Who
got the
knows what we were
sideburns
thinking
going,
back
but
then?
man, that's a lot of hair gel, and I don't know, my
A lot
eyebrows
of
are the
hair.
same.
It's a
But
lot.
the shirt
All
was
right.
calling our shot 23 years later, 21 years, 22 years later, with the blue red, as we played
Yeah.
blue hero and a red hero this weekend.
Yeah. All about the female leads in this one. We both did pretty well.
Yeah, we did great. We both made the top cut. It was 29 person 1K, and I loved Sabine as a call for this weekend, which is the deck that you champion
Mhm.
often and have been playing predominantly over the course of the first two sets of the game. We do, if for people that don't know, we do a like a Patreon only podcast every Thursday night before the weekend to kind of tell people what we're playing for the weekend or what we would be playing for the weekend. And I was saying that just like I think Sabine's going to be such a good call this weekend, and I think your performance over the course of the weekend and just like looking back at the meta that Sabine was the perfect call and that I think you made, which is really great.
Yeah, it worked really well. Obviously, top four, and it was a chop in top four. So who knows what happened? But
Yeah.
it wasn't like I lost in the semis or anything like that. It was a top four cut. Deck did really well. Only lost one match. We'll get into that later on. And yeah, that's one of our newer higher tiers on the Patreon where we do the prep for the weekend. Spoiler alert for our next video, which is our next back end on the Patreon. I will not be suggesting Sabine for this upcoming weekend as the best choice. I always think Sabine is a
Ooh.
good choice. I don't think it's ever a wrong choice.
Yeah, it
But
would
I
have
think
to
there's a
be like all boba for you to even start thinking about, all right, maybe I can
right,
find a better
I
way to attack this, even if it's not a bad choice.
100%. But I actually think there's a pretty clear choice for this
Oh,
upcoming
well,
weekend
now
if you
I'm
want to win
excited
your
to see what
tournament.
that
So,
is. Um,
well, tune in. You better subscribe.
and then I went with Blu-ray, which, if you've been following the channel, you know that I've been championing this deck. A lot of content around this deck, both on King of the Hill and Deck Tech. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you know I've been playing this for weeks. This is one of those
Mhm.
decks that I think is super good, and also one of those decks that people play and get back to me. And a lot of people are like, "Yeah, it's good." I think it takes some work, but man, if you don't like casting Vigilance for 4, I don't know what's going on with you. This deck performed great. I went 5-0 in Swiss. I only dropped a game to the Kylo Red, game two on
Mhm.
the draw. That deck was actually like kind of cracked, and I got kind of overrun on game two. Just like he played a million one drops that were 2/2s, and I couldn't keep up, and they all had Saboteur and stuff. So that was really rough. But the Vigilances and the bigger guys kind of held off when I was on the play. And then, we were both 4-0, you and I, and we played in the round five matchup. And um, did we go to three, or did I win 2-0?
No, that matchup wasn't particularly close. I had like a few feelings of hope, but then I think playing against this deck, kind of to echo what you're saying, it's got a lot of things going on with it. It's pretty hard to play against because you've got this like swarm of little guys, but then you're on this clock with like Redemption and Luke and Chewbacca. You're trying to like push damage because it's got health, but you're also trying to like navigate the board. You've got cards like Sugi and stuff like that, and Keenan who are just like hard to get off, and a shielded Sentinel, which is a nightmare scenario. So you crushed with it. if you can see in the top left, this deck was originally brewed up or mixed up by our
I had to
partner in
shrink the
crime,
picture a
Stevie
little,
Get.
but Stevie, this is
But it
Stevie's
was a
project.
yeah. So a Stevie Get's project that really is just kind of a testament to Steve being a great deck builder in a lot of different games. He'll take something really, really powerful. I think Ray is an example of something that's really, really powerful, but then put his spin on it, which is sort of the double vigilance aspect here. So super strong. It plays a lot of just really powerful cards, but then they interact just in weird ways. Sugi's really incredible, just drawing so many cards, and then it didn't come up in our match, but the Jedi lightsaber was like I didn't know how to sideboard, and I brought in confiscates. So I knew you had them, but then they were kind of not that great.
Yeah.
It's just it kind of makes you just dance in a million different ways, and it's off people's radars. So like if I was to play like 5 more matches against this, I think I would probably do a lot better.
Hmm.
But I do think the surprise factor is like really, really powerful, and there's just like this ticking time bomb in your mind, like oh boy, like
Yeah.
this wave at the end is really, really
Yeah,
strong.
Luke just being so good, and once Luke comes out, he just shuts down a lot of matchups. Like so many decks just can't handle Luke.
Right.
And yeah, the lightsabers were a concession to the Sabine match being so tough and like basically being outclassed on the ground so easily. I tested with Chrono the night before or a couple nights before, and I don't remember if it was like someone in the deck thread on Discord or Chrono said it to me, but someone brought up lightsaber, and it just made total sense. It's one of those things that like happens every so often, where as soon as someone says something, I'm like, yep, that's it, I know. And then yeah, the top targets did come in versus you, which confiscate can be good against, but you didn't have the top target for when I was able to play it, and then basically take a turn off and then restabilize with like a vigilance for 11. I think that might have been
Right.
the Kyle game, but I think I just
No,
gained so much
you did
life
it
against
against
you.
me too, and yeah, it was frustrating because I think I got you into the 20s, and then it's like and then we're in like the sevens, and there's a Luke out. It's sort of like, yeah,
Yep.
this is happening.
Yeah, the whole deck is
Um,
like a 2-for-1 in some ways. Like, you underdrop. You played these guys who are low stat, and then Ray kind of builds them up, and
mhm,
that kind of makes up for the fact that they're underdrops because they have this other value of like they restore 2 or they restore and draw me a card
mhm.
with like Queel and Yoda, and then they're killing things as you play them with Yoda and Luke and Chewbacca, or they're giving extra tokens and drawing a card like Obi-Wan. So this thing just has like so much heal, so much draw that it feels like I'm getting 2-for-1 value, even though like it's not a straight up necessarily every single card costs you 2. I feel like every single card is getting me another card worth of value,
Right.
either every time I play it or every time it attacks.
Yeah, it's really hard to attack into.
And then I had faced aggro matches all day, except for the Cure Green. And then I only, like I said, lost the one game before the top
Yeah,
8. But
you were top seed going in. Won all your matches, were the only 5-0, and really kind of took the tournament by storm in the Swiss.
yep, and then this is your 4-1 Swiss deck, and this was a deck, like, obviously you do a lot of content on this deck for the Patreon.
Mhm.
You're always giving updates, and I think you had given the update maybe 2 days before the fall line. And
Yeah,
everyone thought it was going to be new swag, and it was swag for us.
yeah, I'll get this
But
one.
the new swag is hot. But talk about some of your changes and why you were running what you were running in this particular 1K.
Yeah, so with this one, there was some things that I added that I liked and some things that I didn't like. The Adelphi, the new 5-drop, that's sort of the new tech. Not everybody knows about it. Our Discord's been really high on it. It is really, really great. 4/6 stat line.
The
It's
best.
just so hard to answer, and people get caught up on that ability not necessarily triggering always and very infrequently actually, but just a 4/6 that is, it represents a spot on the curve where you only really have Poe. It's not really a 5-drop though. It's just like it's something just to slam down. And when you think about it, it's like they kind of have to claim, but then they can't actually kill it anyway, and it's still just a 4. So
Hmm.
it does a lot of really great things. And then if you ever do get to use its ability, it's even better. I had an amazing play for me. Not that I did anything special. I slammed this and attacked for 9, but basically my opponent had an Avenger out and a Client, and
This is
I had a
crazy.
big unit out, and he was still like 12 damage to go. And he plays as Avenger, and I sacrificed another unit, and I left my Wrecker out. So then I was able to claim, and I'm sort of opponents like, yeah, you're kind of like locked right now. Like the Client Avenger is sort of this soft lock, and with 12 damage to go, really tricky to navigate away from that. But then I was able to slam a Delphi, attack for 9, and We were at like infinite resources at that point, so I was also able to play a K2, and it was like he had to super laser blast and take more damage, and did gain some life with the client. But it was a situation that because I had the Adelphi, basically I had a way to win that I just wouldn't have had otherwise. So really, really strong card there. The Dodonna should have been a second to Delphi. The Dodonna was sort of a misstep, me trying to regain old feels there. The X-Wing probably should have been an R2, but I'm constantly updating the deck. There's an updated list in our Discord right now in Kashyyyk Operative that feels really strong. These sort of bigger Sabines, now with the Adelphi, feel very powerful, and they don't feel like they're ever petering out. Like you don't get to turn 6, 7, or 8 and really feel like you're out of it. Luke is a card that you're scared of. You still have answers to him. And, Reinforcement Walker is another card, but for the most part, cards like Avenger and that stage of the game where normally you'd just be like completely dominated by in set 1, we've got really good answers. We've got really good ways to continue the pace. So I'm still really, really big on this deck.
Yeah, great. I think it's great too. And I have not been playing it lately over since set 2, but after just seeing how well placed it was this past weekend and how well you did with it, I really want to get back on the train and make sure that I have some reps on this deck, so I don't have to not consider it on a weekend like last weekend when I thought it was such a great choice. So top 8, I was the first seed, and I was not happy when they were reading the list, and they said Teddy got 8th. Not because I'm not happy for Teddy, but just because that grind. That match was such a grind in Swiss, and I was worried that he'd figured a bunch of things out. This happened. Actually, I wanted to mention this, but when I beat you, I likened it to a Bruce Lee movie when Bruce Lee gets punched in the lip and he tastes his own blood, and you just sat there at the table, kind of looking at your cards and thinking, and I'm like, oh, I've done this before. I beat Justin in Swiss only for him to obliterate me in the top cut. So
I was processing because the matches were just so lopsided.
But you do that you take the time. You sit there after a round and you process. And even when you lose, you will make sure you figure out why and come back stronger. It's one of your great strengths. So
people post their records on various other platforms of where they're playing. It's 90% win rate with this deck. I looked at a win rate for Sabine, and it was my win rate in some metric on non-tournaments is 55% or something like that. Because I think you get so much information just from learning and trying.
Yeah, and trying new things, and they don't work, and you understand why, and you don't do them again. Right. So my games were a slog, and they extended the rounds 10 minutes. And if they didn't do that, I would have won because I had the tiebreaker, and we finished game 3 after time was called. So it was really rough, and it was real slog. He actually boarded in all 10 of his sideboard cards and played 60 because I just happened to draw all my vigilances in game 1, and I just stayed at a healthy life total and milled him out at the end, which I guess maybe hurt me for the way he sideboarded. But it was a real slog, and I just can't bring myself to play slow in those situations, even though I have the tiebreaker. And then you
can't do that.
No, I would never. I just not. It's just not in me. And you played against Bosk Blue, which is a really good matchup for you. Before splitting in the top 4.
It was close. Like I said, that was game 3 was the game that I was able to play the Adelphi, and he had gotten to a point where Avenger was out, and with Client's pretty tough to deal with. So he played it really well. It was a good match. He made some really great plays, but ultimately Sabine sort of did Sabine things against control, and it was my 3rd Bosk of the day.
Yeah,
I will tell you, All-Star against Bosk, Poe Dameron just killing.
Dude, Poe
in my Swiss,
Poe's so good.
He used all 3 modes multiple times.
Yeah,
where it was kill a bounty. Yeah, you know what? Why don't we discard a card because I've drawn some cards from your forced chokes and stuff like that. And let's just do 2 damage here as well. And
it's so funny, the card estimation, how when he was first printed, everyone's like, oh my God, this card is insane. And then there were times when people were like, I don't know if I even want Poe and Sabine. And then now, after just playing him, it's just oh my God, he's so good.
He's insane. The cards Wrecker Poe, Darksaber are just all
it's
so
crazy
insane.
How good they made Sabine after set 2. It's so
right
nuts.
after already being good.
Yeah. And then shout out to our opponents, both Patreon subscribers, Sunder and Teddy. Teddy's name is his initials. I think it's Tisk and some numbers. So shout out to those guys, Keith and Teddy. And then so
And then also the rest of the top four too. So it was
oh
the Green Sabine
Yame, yep.
player was Yame, great kid, asked me a bunch of questions. We actually played our semifinal match after we split because I could tell he really wanted to play a mirror, and he's followed a lot of my content, so I think it was kind of exciting for him. I was able to win that match, and also shout out to it wasn't a full Discord top four, but
Until the other day when
chatting until the other day, and
we
Alex
got
was
Blandon to
welcome
sign up.
Alex with Yellow Han looked pretty good piloting that throughout the course of the tournament, and he also top four. So nice job to
Yeah, he's a
Alex
good
as
player
well.
from other games and test. He's like played other games with Tata, so like we've known him. I've known him. I knew him from the. I met him. I think either I met him or peripherally during the Argent Saga days. But yeah, he's a good player and happy to have him in the Discord. He was actually streaming in the Discord today with Han
Yeah,
Yellow. He said he's mainly been one tricking that. So if you're interested in Han Yellow content, I'm sure he's been really active in the thread and doing some streaming already. So pretty cool to see 24
yeah, that's
hours.
great. It's great to see. I think we have this in on the back end, which is like champions for decks. Like I've certainly championed Sabine along with CJ. And now we got Alex championing Yellow Han, and we've got just like Woo's been playing Kira a bunch, and Woo plays a whole bunch of different things
Yep,
and
him and
streams.
Maddie are both in the Kira Green a ton.
CJ was streaming going into Gen Con, like tons of Bosk. He played it on one of the days, just like Bosk and
Yeah,
fun
I'm
Bosk games.
looking now at the
You
threads
know,
I'm really
back.
active in. Blue Ray, Yellow Boba, Green Boba,
Mhm.
Blue Boba. Those are like my most active threads right now.
Yeah,
But yeah,
there's a lot
so
of act.
yeah, if you're interested, like if you're ever looking for plates, like Alex was kind of like, I don't sub to Discords. I have like kind of like an ego check thing for him, and I was like, man, if you want to talk competitive cards, like this is the place. There's 1,000 people in here, and like if you like a
This is the
deck,
spot.
there's a whole bunch of people who like that deck too. It's pretty fun.
And it's a
Um,
great way to like just meet people in the community. Like just shout out to I hope I say it the right name, McFrago.
yeah,
Hooked me up with this Sabine showcase. Pretty excited
damn
to
dude.
jam this guy out. And then recently, one of our coaching tier subscribers, I'm starting to stack up uh, these showcases. I'm really excited to do some Cad Bane content. So a true prophecy. You can't totally see it because it's so shiny,
Yeah, that's
but
sick.
Cad Bane.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna
Um,
swerve to Cad Bane for this weekend, but I was glad you
I
stuck
was
with the.
really close, and then it does have some flaws, but hopefully the community can help work them out. We're looking at maybe adding some more juicy things for sneak attack. That's the newest angle I have with it, but
Yeah,
excited to
so
get some content out on CAD.
yeah, you guys split in top four. My money was on you even before the tournament. I was telling people if
Oh.
anyone wants to take a bet, I'll put any amount of money that Justin was going to take it down.
Ooh,
So I
we
felt
won
pretty
this money
confident.
right here. It's hot in here. I need to fan
I
myself.
did not. I cannot fan myself with my $150 bill, but I was in my. I did go to my wallet today. I'm like, why do I have a 50? It was
Mm.
from the event. All right, moving forward with Ray and Sabine. Let's look at these questions. I didn't look at these because Justin made these
But this is
slides
the
for
first
me.
one. I kind of went back and forth. The first one's more of a question for you, Mike, from sort of the outside looking in, me included. Is Ray Blue, is it viable moving forward for like, future 1Ks? We have one locally on the 28th. But then also like in PQ
PQs,
season,
yeah.
is it, Sabine's been such an entity, Boba's been an entity like that just continue to stay for a while. Then there's some other decks like Blue Vader that come in, kind of strike fire when it's hot, but then they don't totally go that further. So which one's Ray?
Yeah, I think she's totally viable. Like I had played her this past weekend to like kind of get her out of my system, and I just felt more confident in her. Even as I test into control matchups, I feel really good. So one of the main reason I lost in the top eight was because of Relentless. I could often deal with the first one, but the second one I basically couldn't deal with, and I thought I was totally winning game three. I had a huge board and he played Relentless, and I attacked a bunch and he barraged and killed all three of my units, and that's something that doesn't usually happen to Ray, but it did in this case because the
Mm.
barrage for 10 is just so much, and I didn't have a way to kill it, so I just had to try and race it. And I don't know if I could have done something to prevent it, but like in general, like I'm just trying to untap attack and then play things reactively. But that barrage shut me down, and that's because I didn't have anything for Relentless. So right now I'm currently looking for ways to deal with Relentless, possibly by adding some one cost events to
Mm.
deal with it. But I would say like if Blue Ray is popular or Ray in general is popular, and you think you can get to Relentless, or even against Ray Red where they're like discarding you and stuff. Like eventually you're going to like you're gonna draw two, right? You're gonna resource one and play one, and if you can get to Relentless, you can really shut down what they're trying to do. Um, there are ways to play against it, but that was the biggest thing for me. But otherwise, I really like it because it can play the mill game, it can play the attack game, it can play the heal game. So if you get the right draw or know what to mulligan for or know how to hide your cards in your resource row and play them later on with tech after your opponent taps out, like Ray can win. I think Ray's in every matchup, and I can't say that for a lot of decks.
Yeah, so I think you kind of addressed some of the questions about the last point there of how it beats villain control with Relentless in cards like Devastator and Avenger, and to me, it doesn't total. That would be my concern, like just navigating those matchups. Like you play a Luke, they play an Avenger, or they play a Relentless, or they play a Devastator. You don't have a ton of cards like that. You've got Luke and Chewie, but they're a little more situational.
Yeah, I never
What is
resource a
the key
Fel
there?
ever. Like I never
Okay.
resource Fel the Dragon. I resource Luke over Fel the Dragon, and I try to be careful to make sure I'm also playing out my like little donkers in those matchups. Like I'm also just pushing out an R2 or a Moisture Farmer to not die to things like Avenger. But you
Okay.
do just have so much value in the resource row between Sugi and Tech that you can generally outlast them. Like you have more threats than they do. You just have to
So it's
not. You have
almost
to deal
like
with their threats.
a Han Yellow versus Control type of thing, where you're really
Yeah, to a
maximizing the
smaller degree,
smuggle,
yeah. But then you also get
okay.
to play the mill game because you can just hold your
And you
vigilances.
can still
You
mill.
you they're not aggroing you, so you never feel pressure to burn your vigilance early. So you can just hold them and do things like shield mill at the end of the game or
And you've
destroy
got a
something small.
huge, you've got a huge hand with Sugi and
Yeah,
R2
Queel,
Cyclone.
R2, like and just yeah, our Obi-Wan,
Not
Yoda,
Sugi,
like prioritizing
Queel.
things like Queel, Obi-Wan, and Yoda to make sure I get those cards back in my hand is also really big. And then I
That's cool.
had force throws in my sideboard, but in testing they had been pretty good against those kind of controlling matchups where I can take a card at an opportune time and usually take something out on the board because they're holding something big. It just didn't line up for me this weekend. I think Teddy playing what is it, Dr. Pershing, and
Mm,
that's not a card that I can easily take off the board in one turn. So he's always going
right.
to draw one or two. Made my force throws feel really bad.
Have you, maybe this is for the back end of the Discord, but I'm just excited to talk about it now. Have you thought about playing Spark? I feel like that could be answering a lot of
I
those.
haven't thought about playing Spark. I have looked at Spark as a way to deal, in previous iterations of like blue yellow control or blue kind of hero control. But maybe I should take a look at it.
Yeah, I
Maybe it's
find
just
like in this
time.
game, like aggregate discard, like pillage isn't that great, but taking like looking at their hand and taking like, oh, a relentless, oh, a barrage, oh, a
Yeah. The thing is,
something
through
that's
the
got a
middle
real
of the
devastator,
game, the deck really wants to have units out. It wants to play
just
behind
wants to
its
see stuff.
Sentinels, and the Spark for 4 isn't a lot. But I know like people are kind of high on Ray Yellow at the moment, so possibly like I should look at that.
Yeah, I think Spark's probably a card that I'm really excited about playing into PQ season. Is you start getting into a little bit higher comp level.
Hmm.
That's a card that I want to be looking to try to play.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so question for you: how do we adjust Sabine week to week along with preparing for PQ season?
Yeah, so I think a couple things is you want to be looking for like a few extra value cards. I think we found it in the Adelphi, but there's other things. Bright Hopes in the main could be something you want to anticipate your field a bit. Into a Boba field, into a Han field, into a control field, Bosk, what have you. And I like the idea of having a few spots for just like a few pushed units. So like a Delphi and Bright Hope, it could be, it wasn't Dodonna, but it could be something else. A card that I've thought a little bit about is Riken, just as sort of a little bit way to go over the top. And then I do think there's some flexibility in the pumps. Um, Rebel Assault is really only used against the mirror and
Hmm.
like maybe other super aggro decks like a Kylo type of thing. But I pretty much resource that card in every other matchup. So do you take the chance and bring in your heroics that give you a little bit more value, or do you like go really crazy and just play like three metal ceremony and no other pumps and maybe get a little boost on your curve? So I think you want to be thinking about like where you're losing value and where you're gaining value. Like this week, I didn't have timely. I certainly missed it against you, but then I had some more. Uh, what are the anti-sentinel card? The Saboteur. I had
Yep,
more
Fighters for
Sab.
Freedom.
sort of, yeah, Fighters for Freedom was great for me. I played against Han Blue, and it was insane. Just it did like 4 damage and hit to base against Sentinels, and um, 4 damage on the ping was nice to have. Another 3 drop with a big defensive value. So I do think you wanted to start thinking about, what do I want to beat this weekend? What do I want to have a little bit more on the sideboard for? And my other big thing with that is just like not going as safe as everyone sometimes. I feel like people sometimes are just scared to lose. And they'll be like, oh, I need, a card like Spec Force Soldier has to be in. I played against so many Sentinels, and I actually don't think they'd be that good against you. You were the only Sentinel type deck that I lost to. But I beat a whole bunch of Child Sins and Obi-Wans this weekend just by killing them.
Hmm.
So I think you have to rethink of your plan sometimes and not get so locked in to like, oh, this card I need this answer, because your deck itself is presents a lot of things that need to be answered in their own right. So you don't necessarily need to have all the answers.
Right. How about question 3? Did you see anything at the event that excited you?
I was intrigued by the Han Yellow from Alex. Just like the ability to have so much smuggle and just like have tack and have things like surprise striking your resource row for 4 and Falcons down there, like the 3-cost Falcon, just like waiting in the wings if you have a tech out. Uh, that was interesting to me, and like I said, I really like Spark.
Hmm.
So and Spark for 2 is obviously like
This is
nice, not
Sparks. Huh.
overpay for it. But I think that was one. The blue bosses were good, but I can't picture myself ever really playing them.
Yeah, that control grind is
It's
rough.
just I'm not there. So I did kind of like the yellow Han a bit. Cunning decks I think are probably a little underrepresented, even though they've been such a big part of the market share. I think people are kind of probably playing them a little bit too. They should be playing them a little bit more right now.
Hmm.
They're kind of afraid of like, oh, my cunning decks are going to lose to like Power of the Dark Side decks, but there's some pretty solid avenues to be able to beat those in both regimes there.
Yeah, I was excited to play against Kylo. I don't get a lot of reps against that, and I don't love mono red. Like I don't love aggression as much as some other people do, but I was really impressed just by how much damage that thing could put out and all the little red weenies that popped off against me. I thought that was really cool, and probably at some point I need to loop and actually play some Kylo because I only really messed with it at the
Yeah.
very beginning of the format, and I haven't really given it its fair shake. I just think that if you kill Kylo before he attacks, or you're not able to attack with him for 4 or 5, like the deck just loses a lot of potency. And so anything that can kill him right away, or like if you can hold takedown, it's just like really neuters the deck in my opinion. So that's why I'm not super high on him. Like I prefer to play decks that don't hinge on like the leader attack. Even Boba, it's like you can still win
Mm.
games without Boba. So like I like to play a deck that I think about, all right, are there games I ever play where I don't deploy my leader and I can still win? And that doesn't feel like you can do that with Kylo, like you can the other decks.
Well, one of the things that's happening is that like Sabine's actually becoming the safest leader because she actually dodges like Poe and Wrecker early.
Hmm.
So like it's now becoming the type of thing where like especially Wrecker, I mean he can basically kill any leader with ECL, which is in the most popular. I know people will say, "Oh, it's not always ECL," but I think a lot of the way the decks are trending now is you're saving the ECL for Poe Wrecker to kill their leader as soon as he comes out or she comes out. So Sabine and I guess Lando by definition too, and is actually like the safest leader um, because they can actually do something, and then they're going to die to that same thing, but at least they've gotten in a little bit of value
Yeah, a couple
first.
attacks with a dark saber or a
Or
jetpack or
maybe
something.
maybe Kylo can solve a similar role. I do have an interesting idea with Kylo, which is just to never flip, and then
I
just
thought you were gonna
always
say
use the
play
pump,
wrecker.
and then yeah, not play wrecker in your Kylo, but basically never flip, but then use like you always will be able to claim or not claim, but like they can never claim because then you can flip.
Right.
So just
Yeah,
sort of doing it that way.
that is pretty interesting. Yeah, I think that there's still a lot of interesting things to play. Like I think that this game is like so well designed that
Mm.
like we continue to explore it even this deep in the set. And then our last question: how does hero control beat villain control? I think you nailed it a couple times
Yeah,
already. I
we
think it's discard. I think it's just hand discard is the thing that makes it better, and I think that's like why you see villain villain control play things like Spark, or they could play Bazine. Anything that discards from hand wins the restock war or the mill war or the control war. So I think that's the thing. Just focusing on discard.
Yeah, it feels like you mentioned earlier, outvaluing and then maybe getting some good quality discard in there and having like outcarding people and vigilancing and yeah, seems like there's an avenue there to beat the relentlesses. You didn't necessarily hit it in your one match, but you hit it in the other one.
Yeah.
You beat the guy, same guy, so didn't seem like it was too bad a matchup.
No, I would still be. I wouldn't be playing scared if we had to face again. I would have a plan and try and execute it. But I do want to put some cards in the sideboard to help it.
Right, maybe it needs just like a little more.
Yeah, I
That's
think it
all.
just needs a slight bit. Take into account that, I knew that control was going to be heavily played this weekend. I should have thought about Relentless more.
Right, right.
And that's it. That's our last slide. So I think that's it for us.
Hope everyone enjoyed it and you can duplicate or maybe even go above our success from this past weekend. Maybe you'll be the sole winner of your 1K
yeah, if you've got a
or
1K,
showdown or
good luck
different
this
things. Let us
weekend.
know how they go.
Yeah, we've got one in 2 weeks or a week and a half. So the 28th. See if we run it back with our decks or if I play something different.
Ooh,
I'm about to go
spicy.
test some yellow Palpatine, so maybe
Nice.
it'll be that. All right. Well, thanks for making these slides so I could focus on playtesting leading up to the PQ. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.